All right, in this video, I want to break down some overall big picture perspective and like what is going on right now. All right, and what I'm doing with this channel, some of the things to expect, and really give kind of a short update. So, all right, it's Easter. He is risen. I was born in San Francisco, so being born right into the con to the Sacred Heart there. My mom was at the, she was assistant to the principal, so it was. Yeah, it really baptized Catholic, the whole thing, growing up in all that stuff, doing the altar boy thing. And I was raised in, grew up in Sacramento. But then, I've always had like that San Francisco and Catholic side of me. So, definitely the Easter is, it's like, so it's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, really getting getting to know the word is probably the only way to have a relationship. I mean, a really strong relationship with Christ, but it's I just owe a lot of thanks to my mom and to my dad and my grandparents really for the true drill in the faith of Christ into me. So thank you for that, and I definitely appreciate the sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice, and that He is risen, man. It's true joy. Accept that into my heart as my Lord and Savior. So, but overall, I want to just talk about like a couple things to expect this week and some other big picture perspectives. And that is, looks like I'm going to be meeting with Daniel Street again, Lament out in Australia. I'm going to meet with Jack Pitts. I'm going to meet with the head of CoinGeek, Tom, this week on Tuesday night. And we're going to discuss just some overall stuff that's going on. One of the things that we're going to talk about is the Coinflow integration into money. I mean, and ultimately, these are not our decisions. So money, the stablecoin, Ron Tater, he's the decision maker. Ultimately, it's a guy called Harbin. Really, is the decision maker. Ron's the true decision maker. But I think Harbin's pretty much in charge. And so they're not. They don't believe that having an onboarding system like to click is important at all. One-click onboarding. I think it's a big mistake, and I know that we're going to talk about that on Tuesday to like think about like how do we get the original Bitcoin protocol out there for adoption to all the rest of the people besides just the people in the industry that have Rock Wallet and whatnot now. Because in order to make it peer-to-peer cash, we have to have a way to get it for everybody to use it as cash. And it's an amazing concept to have this money stablecoin. And I really, hats off to those guys for what they've done. It's hard work. So I'm looking at it from an optimistic perspective. A lot of people are probably looking at it other ways, but I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic about it working out. And the text money thing that Brett Banavy talked about on my show the other day, where you text, the BSV code on that signal. I think it's textbsv.com right now. And then it's becoming text money apparently. So very soon you'll be able to text US dollars, stablecoin back and forth and pennies. Like here's 1 penny in money. And that's definitely a great idea. And I'm happy that they did that. But again, that's just going after the industry that's already in, the people that already have Bitcoin. I'm talking about like expanding our horizons. Let's go and go after the other people that are not in crypto right now. Well, why do they want crypto? Well, they don't want crypto, but they want some product or app or game, or let's say the business that Brett Banavy has right now, which is the game cards. They click that one click, and all of a sudden it adds a wallet for them, and all of a sudden they have the game card, and they paid in stablecoin with 1 or 2 clicks, and that's it. And the person got the money. So and it's peer-to-peer. I mean, that's the beautiful thing. It is a peer-to-peer transaction. Okay, so that's really the power of what we're doing here is taking away the middleman and making it peer-to-peer. And there's integration costs. We had offered to put together the funding for it. So it's not that the guys at Money and Harbin were like, oh, they don't want to pay the money. They said they didn't want to pay, so we agreed to pay. We said we would pay. That's still not. But even with that, they're still not interested in doing it. So now we're like, well, what's really going on? Why wouldn't you want the one-click onboarding? You know, I don't get it. It's not about like, you know, we offered to pay for it, but still not something they're interested in. So hopefully we'll make some momentum on that because we want to see some major adoption. You know, also on the front of you know, talking with Josh Reid, and I got a video I'm going to put out here in a moment here with my kind of preview with Josh Reid. Now I'm going to do a show with him on Tuesday. That's coming up. He's going to schedule with me. Now Josh is the Red Pill Project, dude. Listen, I am so over the freaking establishment media, you know, and the lies. I don't even pay attention to what they say. It's a joke, you know, like President Trump says, you know, they're just fake news and they've completely lost their credibility. So when I find someone out there that is a true grassroots guy who's actually like totally grassroots, his own subscriber base, his own fans, his own, you know, his own money that he's making on his stuff, not selling out to ads of like, you know, bad, you know, completely compromised industries and businesses. Like I freaking absolutely love that. So I support him. And I think that he actually shows, he probably gives the most extremely accurate understanding about what is going on in the world right now, in the way of politics, in the way of our global economic scheme, you know, and the potential takedown of the IRS, the Federal Reserve, these things, but not in a conspiracy way like, oh, a theory. I'm talking about actual facts and reporting, and he does it on a regular basis. He has like this daily dose show that he does on a Monday through Friday basis. So it's on Rumble. I'm going to let him plug it on my show when I do it, and I really want to get him on a roll because I got so much respect for the guy. It's almost like honestly, I'm a huge fan of him, you know, and I only discovered him in October from Nino's Corner, and, you know, I just absolutely love what he's doing, you know, so I don't just plug people on, you know, for no reason. I'm going to plug him and I want everybody to try to start watching him and following him and everything he's doing, not in any way because I'm in any way benefiting, but because it's the freaking, dude, it's so intense and you don't get wrapped up in all the other nonsense. He does all the research. He's out there scouring, you know, news and information, crypto stuff too. But one thing about that is fascinating about Josh, and I mentioned this to Brett on the show, is that he never even heard. So, okay, I don't know when he got into crypto, but he's super, super into crypto, right? He has consulting for it, you know, very knowledgeable, extremely knowledgeable, long-term vision. And he talks about it's like this is like 1860. You know, we're just setting the tracks. The tracks and pipes are all going down right now. You know, we're nowhere near global adoption. You know, 1860 in the railroads. You know, the pipes are down. Their freaking tracks are down. And he, in his mind, in his what he knows, in his belief system, he sees what he sees, which is Solana and the proof of stake network. They got some pipes down and they got tracks down. You know, other networks, they've got tracks down. That's what he sees. And I asked him, I said, well, what about Bitcoin? And he's like, well, yeah, you know, it's good too. You know, I mean, he talks about that too, but not as I'm like, well, wait a second. I mean, not BTC, but the original Bitcoin protocol. He's like, oh, I'd never heard. What do you mean? I mean BSV, like the original Bitcoin protocol. He's like, oh, I never heard of it. Never heard of it. Never heard of it. So apparently he's probably coming in after 2017. So if you weren't around like heavily involved, following things day to day, every single day in 2017, it's possible that the people who came in after that, they didn't see the entire dynamics of what happened. And just now it's like, no idea it's even out there. No idea that Bitcoin, the original design, the Satoshi Nakamoto design, the one in the white paper, it exists. Because we all know, and he agrees, I mean, everyone, you know, who's of any logical sense, they know that BTC is not big. It has nothing to do with Bitcoin, right? I mean, it doesn't resemble Bitcoin, okay? It has the name, but like Satoshi calls it Greg coin, you know, but because it's definitely not Bitcoin. But, you know, it's using the name, passing off at it. So it is what it is. But I'm saying that the original design, though, and I don't want to talk bad about BTC. I really don't, because I think that there's a time and a place. And you know what? Maybe BTC is going to keep going up. So if you're holding it and you've been holding it for the last couple of years, good for you. You've been freaking killing it. Congratulations. So I don't want to rain on people's parade on whatever they're investing in, but I will say, according to Wall Street Bets, and Wall Street Bets, the way I look at those, and Brett told me about them, and I've heard a little bit about them. The way I look at them is like GameStop. And they seem like kind of the GameStop guys, where they're like a grassroots movement looking at silver squeeze and things to get behind. And they're very much into like the grassroots stuff. That's been my perspective. I don't know much about them, but either way, they talked about the original Bitcoin protocol the last week. And they're saying, wow, it looks like it's partnering with World Economic Forum, BSV partnering with the World Economic Forum, not World Economic Forum, but a group that's partnered with them. And like, that's something to watch. The BSV blockchain is something to watch, something really to take serious, because that is not a joke. There's something happening right there. And I'll tell you what's happening. I mean, in case you don't know, and that's Teranode, the Teranode protocol, which is the node implementation on the original Bitcoin protocol, which is scaling it to 1 million transactions a second. And the legal side of it, it's compliant, it's patent protected. It's one of the few blockchains that's truly got a fortress of patents, like solid patents behind it. I don't think there's anything like it. I know the name. I haven't heard anything from Enchain. I don't know if they're even going by Enchain anymore, but the patents are under the name Enchain. That's the patents that they're under. Enchain, Dr. Wright. So it's I don't know what Enchain, I haven't heard much from them lately, but either way, that's another huge element. Because if you're talking about big global adoption, and I think the stuff that Josh Reid talks about with the rails being set, the way I look at it is like, this is a 15-year plan for me, 2040. That's my long-term vision for things, 2040. And I'm not saying I'm sitting around on my hands till 2040. I'm saying that that's the freaking world we live in, okay? We got till 2040 May. That's my perspective. Of how our timelines are working right now. We're on a 138-year timeline calendar. Every 138 years that we have this calendar that goes on. If you're following the stuff that in the Chronicron from Jason Bashir's, and I do believe, at least in my mind, I think that a 15-year timeline is a realistic goal for this long-term Bitcoin vision, because we had 16 years so far, and another 15 years will be 30 years in. Okay, and where we'll be. So it's important to think about it like that. Now, price-wise, I don't know. It's funny because I'm telling Josh, telling it to Josh for the very first time he started to research it. We're going to talk on Tuesday. I really want to know what he has to say. I mean, think about it. Imagine if you only just heard about the original Bitcoin protocol today and you're like, wow, it's only $28, $25. Like, wow. What? Like, shoot. Imagine that, like, in that perspective, if you think about it, right? If you're just like, are you kidding me? You mean Bitcoin in its original design is $28? I can buy that right now? No, actually you can't. It's really hard to get. It's not easy to get. It's been totally delisted on every single exchange. So that's the tricky part. The only American exchange that has it is what? Rock Wallet. That's not even barely an exchange. And that's super expensive. So, I mean, it's not easy to get. I had done a video or a podcast show on X with with Ben from Senti, and that is, I haven't, I mean, it's been the way it's been the best way to get it without KYC. And I did a show on how to do that. You could watch one of my Senti. I'll put a link to it here. The podcast I did with Senti and Ben, you can watch that. Check it out. KYC, no KYC crypto. It's fascinating. They're a Swiss company. So that's the best way, in my opinion. But I know the UK, they've completely banned it. You can't even get it. You're blocked. You're freaking tied down. Nothing. US, as far as I know, it's Rock Wallet. Maybe there's another way. But obviously the guys at Coinbase and everything, they hate them. And everybody else has banned them. And that's, it's a long-term thing. So, all right, bottom line is he has risen. Happy Easter. There's a lot going on this week. All right. The couple meetings I've got, the thing I got with Josh, I'll plug a show on that, and I'm going to keep you guys posted on what happens with the guys from, I think he actually runs CoinGeek. So it'll be interesting to talk to him for the first time. I never met him. Tom. Yeah. So, all right. My name's Gavin Mehl at the ones. Sunday, I'll see you at the top.